everyone and welcome back to my channel. In this video I wanted to talk to you about something which I call autism's healing mechanism. I'm not sure if anyone else has described it in that way, but that's how I describe it. When I'm talking about a healing mechanism, by the way, I just want to be clear, this is not in any way along the lines of the neurodiversity movement and their old uber positivity crap. This is no superpower or any special thing like that. What I mean by autism's healing mechanism is perfectly humdrum and commonplace, and in fact probably isn't unique to autism as such. As in, I'm pretty certain that any human being faced with very extreme anxiety and a sense of chaos and angst, quite naturally, as is probably part of a human condition to do so, finds a kind of anchor, something to sort of shore them up, and this becomes their kind of healing mechanism, as it were, to help them get through really crap times. But I do think though, that while this isn't anything necessarily unique to autism as such, it certainly isn't a superpower or anything like that. I do think that maybe in autism this healing mechanism can be, obviously not in all autistic people, we mustn't forget every autistic person is different, but can be very, very pronounced, and might be more likely to happen in autism. So I probably should explain more what I mean by a healing mechanism instead of just like jumping straight in there as I tend to do. So, the healing mechanism. So what I mean by this, from a very personal perspective, is I am someone who gets extremely fixated on certain things. I do think this is part of my autism, which I have to a very pronounced extent. It's one of those autism features in me that I have to a very pronounced extent. In a constellation of features I have, it's very pronounced. I am someone who lives by routine. I always have done and always will do. I do things at very specific times. I can't alterate my routine very well. Obviously I can if I'm in control of it and I have planned it. So, it's not like I can change my routine. It's not, I can do that, but it's something that I have to instigate and something that doesn't happen spontaneously, but only after a great deal of preparation. And I do like to stick to very, very set ways of doing things. So I am a creature of routine. And I do things at very set times. Some of those times are set to a clock, like my bedtime, for example, doesn't really alter at all, apart from in exceptional circumstances that have been pre-planned. But so the healing mechanism, so what I'm talking about is, so I get very fixated on things. Now, these basically, I think sometimes in autism speak, are called special interests. I'm not particularly keen on that title. I just call them very obsessive, intense, highly fixated interests. I think that sums it up a bit better. And they take up a lot of thought space in my brain. The order I do things, my collections, whatever I'm fixating on at the moment. This can be a blessing and a curse, because obviously this is a blessing, and this is the healing mechanism aspect, which I want to talk about, because I also have a lot of anxiety. At the moment, that anxiety is really very high because COVID, I can't really go anywhere. It is absolute bloody annoying. I'm stuck at home. I do go out for my walk, but it's around the same old areas. I have deviated slightly after my 4th vaccine, getting slightly more relaxed, and I have managed to go a slightly different route, but it is still very, very monotonous. it's not like my life pre-COVID, and there's a lot of uncertainty and a lot of anxiety because obviously I have OCD as well. So there's a lot of anxiety there, and I don't like, and it's horrible. It's anxiety. It's scary stuff, man. Everything's scary. Life's scary. I mean, this has always been the case for me. Life is scary. I overthink things. I'm very anxious by nature. I think over a lot about all the things go wrong, things happening. Obviously, life's inexorable. March forward. We don't know what's going to go around the corner. So my interests and fixations are absolutely essential because while they're very, very distracting at times, and sometimes when I'm trying to do other things I'm still fixating on my interest, that can be a little bit annoying because my brain won't switch off. At the same time, I'd much rather my brain be doing that than obsessing about COVID. If I had to choose, I'd much rather my brain be obsessing about my collections than about COVID, because obsessing about my collections, while it can be very overwhelming and very intense, and sometimes can be a bit anxiety provoking as well. The anxiety there, I would call a positive anxiety, is more akin to excitement. It's a kind of sense that I'm in control of something, that anticipation, but in a kind of sense that I can control it. It's fixating on something that's concrete, in my control, and enjoyable. And that actually then displaces the overwhelming, more abstract anxiety, which I can't control. That's why I call it autism's healing mechanism. And I do think in a sense it's a blessing, because if I didn't have that, all I'd be left with would be absolute hell. So the way the autism healing mechanism taking place, the way the autism healing mechanism is helping me at the moment is, as you know, one of my big preoccupations at the moment is knitting. So I've taught myself how to knit, and at the moment I'm getting very interested in all things creative pursuits, like crafting and stuff like that, to the point of obsession, as everything doesn't, for me, whenever I get interested in something, it's not just a little interest, it becomes an obsession. So knitting, crafting, I never would have thought that I'd get into this so much, but I have. So I've got this massive collection now. I've read loads of books all about this stuff. But that's essential. It's really good for my mental health. It's kind of like my therapy, because when I'm obsessing about, what yarn am I going to get next? Do I need this yarn? Do I need this yarn for this project? It stops me thinking about COVID. So it can be overwhelming and intense, but my brain can't obsess about two things simultaneously, and I'd much rather be obsessing about what bit of yarn to get next, or how to arrange a picture in a frame, or where to put a picture in a frame, which is something else I'm rather obsessed with at the moment, like curating my little art gallery. I'd much rather be obsessing about that than obsessing about COVID. So it's actually really helpful, and that's why I call it autism's healing mechanism. Obviously, ideally, I wouldn't need that healing mechanism, but ideally I wouldn't have loads of anxiety, and it's the only thing I can think of that comes close enough to me to some medication, but without it does have side effects, I suppose, in the sense that it can be very overwhelming and distracting, but the closest thing I can think of to medication, which is a positive way of displacing anxiety short of going on medication, which I don't want to do. So it kind of acts a little bit like a drug. It kind of literally stops the brain thinking about scary stuff. When I go to bed at night and I'm still obsessing about what colour yarn to get, it helps me go to sleep. It doesn't stop me sleeping. But if I were to be worrying about COVID, that worry would be horrible and be keeping me awake. So it's like counting sheep, isn't it? What yarn am I going to get? It sends me to sleep, you know what I mean? So actually, it's actually a positive anxiety. It causes adrenaline. It causes a lot of adrenaline and a sense of excitement, and some anxiety because I worry, will they have the yarn? What if they run out? But it's a positive anxiety because it feels like it's got an end point. It's like I'm working on something. It's like my brain is active but in a productive way, not just mulling over things that don't have any. It's tangible. It has clear. I can work it out basically. So thank God for autism's healing mechanism. That's all I can say, because otherwise I'd be absolutely going mental right now. I will sound that close to going mental, but because I've got autism's healing mechanism there, it stops me going completely off a cliff with this whole COVID stuff. People cope in all sorts of different ways. I would say it's a fairly healthy strategy. Obviously, maybe not sustainable long term, because I am spending quite a lot of money But, you know, I'm not going out or anything, so yes, it's money I'd normally be spending, you know, on other things. But it is absolutely essential for my mental health. So it is basically my therapy. I mean, hell, some people spend their money on therapy. This is my therapy. And at least I'm not, like, doing anything bad for myself like some people do. So I'm not guilty about it at all, because if I didn't have this, I'd literally be going mental right now. And there's no support out there. Well, I speak to a psychologist, but I mean, it's not really helping. It is helping, but this helps more. So... yeah, so let me know what you think about the essential need for your interests and collections and other tangible ways that you deal with anxiety through creativity or whatever. Do let me know. So thank you for watching.